In this video, I'm going to give you a disclosure update and talk about how the UFO cover-up is dying. I want to begin with something that bothers me in a profoundly deep way. I was listening to Dr. Eric Davis, who was a subcontractor under Robert Bigelow from 2007 to 2012 when the UFO program in the Pentagon was still being funded. And he conveyed on a recent Phenomenon Radio episode that during the USS Nimitz Tic Tac UFO event, the F-18s that intercepted that UFO, they actually tried to communicate with that UFO using every communication band available to them. And nevertheless, the UFO would not respond back. Davis even explained that the F-18s tried to maneuver all around the Tic Tac UFO in hopes that that would elicit a response so that the UFO would get onto the communication bands and communicate with F-18 pilots. But still, the UFO did not engage in any communication whatsoever, nor did the UFO make any attempts to communicate with the air traffic controllers either. I'm going to play a short clip from that Phenomenon Radio episode, and I'm going to allow Eric Davis to explain to you what the UFO failed to do, and after I play that clip, I'm going to tell you why this pisses me off so much. Roll it.
They didn't communicate with us. They didn't talk to those pilots or land on the Nimitz and say, hey, we're from planet XYZ, or we're from the 18th dimension. We don't come from a planet. You know, that did not happen. It would be wonderful if that did happen. Then we could figure out where the hell these things come from.
The reason this genuinely pisses me off is because if you are going to be an extraterrestrial from another star system traveling through interstellar space, coming into Earth's atmosphere, entering highly restricted airspace, and playing games with F-18 aircrafts or other aircrafts from other nations, the least you could do, the smallest modicum of courtesy that you could employ would be to merely tell the crafts that are engaging you when they get on the communication bands and try to communicate with you. The least you could do as an extraterrestrial is tell them who you are, what star system you're from, and what your intentions are. But you know what? I have never heard of a single story, not in the Nimitz incident, not in the Tehran incident in Iran in 1976, or any other incident where a pilot has engaged a UFO, have I ever heard that the UFO would get on the communication band and tell the pilot what their objective is. And that genuinely pisses me off. To put this in perspective as to why this upsets me so much, I want to make it clear that it's not as if these UFOs are just passive observers from like 100 miles away. They're doing something well beyond that. They're intimately engaging with the aircraft, but everything but getting on the damn communication band and telling them who they are. And to put this in perspective, at the very end of the Nimitz incident that involved David Fravor, the USS Princeton told David Fravor to go to a rendezvous point 60 miles away. So he followed that directions and he went towards that rendezvous point. Before he could get to that rendezvous point, the USS Princeton conveyed to David Fravor, you're not going to believe this, but that Tic Tac UFO, it's where you're supposed to be. Now, these UFOs, in this incident at least, is willing to go to the exact place that David Fravor was supposed to go, essentially playing mind games with him, but they're not willing to get on the communication band. How could that not piss you off? Because it genuinely pisses me off. Especially when I hear other YouTubers be like, well, the US government knows that they're peaceful. Really? Maybe they are peaceful. I tend to think they are peaceful. But here's the problem. If they're peaceful, why are they not getting on the communication band? It makes absolutely no sense. And it's not like they can't speak English. I mean, how did the Tic Tac UFO know to be at the rendezvous point that David Fravor was told to go? Well, there's only one of two possibilities. One is the Tic Tac UFO heard those directions by tapping into the radio signal, or B, the person piloting the Tic Tac UFO was able to listen to David Fravor's thoughts. Either way, they can speak English. I mean, they're extraterrestrials way more advanced than us. Even if they didn't have vocal cords, they could use AI technology to create human voices. We can do that today. We can make human voices using machinery that doesn't actually come from a human being. So there is absolutely zero excuses as to why these extraterrestrials are failing to get on the communication bands and tell the pilots what they're up to. Genuinely pisses me off. Another thing I want to cover is that there is actual evidence that the Tic Tac UFOs are coming from outer space. For 2 weeks prior to any intercept of that Tic Tac UFO, the USS Nimitz strike group was monitoring these objects for a whole 2 weeks. And what they noticed is that they would start to detect them roughly 60,000 feet above the Earth's sea level, which is 40,000 feet from near space. And they would go from 60,000 feet and drop at high velocities all the way down to like 20,000 feet. I heard one time it was 50 feet. And they would do this like erratically. So the fact that they're coming from 60,000 feet seems to suggest that they are, since the radar begins to detect them at about 60,000 feet, it seems to suggest that they are coming from outer space and entering our atmosphere, which to me gives ammunition to the hypothesis that they are of extraterrestrial origin. There is a rumor going around that the video footage of the USS Nimitz event released on December 16th by the New York Times is a fake. And the reason some people actually believe this is because the reality is that very footage was released onto the internet 10 years ago in 2007 by a German production company specializing in 2D and 3D animation as well as special effects. However, Eric Davis on the Phenomenon Radio interview confirmed that someone on the USS Nimitz responsible for collecting FLIR video of the F-18s that intercepted that UFO, that the person responsible for that actually put it on a disc and transmitted it somehow to that German production company back in 2007. So it was indeed leaked, but its origin is still the F-18s. So contrary to what some people believe, it was not fake. It's completely real footage. It's just that someone working on the Nimitz in 2007 or 2004 leaked it to a German production company. And Stephen Bassett has even suggested that the person who leaked it, for all we know, may be in jail as we speak. Now I want to cover why the disclosure process is definitely not going away. Some people are concerned that the data being released by the To the Stars Academy team is taking too long, and this might be a sign that they are not going to continue to progress toward the post-disclosure world. I'm going to tell you why that concern is unfounded. For starters, the press conference was on October 11th, and it wasn't until about 2 months later that we got our first data dump as promised by the To the Stars Academy team, which happened on December 16th by the New York Times. And you remember, as well as I do, the media frenzy that occurred as a result. Right now, we are roughly 1 month from December 16th. So, according to Stephen Bassett, they have chosen to pace their release of the evidence and footage and so forth. And the reason they're pacing it is because only then can you maintain the media's attention. It can be argued that if you were to release a bunch of stuff all at once, the media would have a go at it and then it would dissipate it. But by doing it this way, the media keeps coming back to it over and over and over again so that it maintains a constant presence instead of being one huge dump and then it goes away. On a recent Phenomenon Radio episode, Stephen Bassett said, "So you don't play all your cards, you keep playing a good hand about every couple of months." And that pretty much characterizes what the To the Stars Academy probably is going to do regarding the data dumps. Hopefully very soon we will get another beautiful data dump. Another thing that Stephen Bassett shared while on the show was that Ralph Blumenthal, who was a Pulitzer Prize winner and was one of the authors of that bombshell article from the New York Times on December 16th, he is going to be releasing a book a little later this year about the ET subject. I am incredibly excited for his book, and I do believe this is going to help immensely to get us closer to capital D disclosure. Here's a little snippet of Mr. Blumenthal on MSNBC. Roll it.
They have, as we reported in the paper, some material from these objects that is being studied so that scientists can try to figure out what accounts for their amazing properties, this technology, these objects, whatever they are. So they have made some progress.
What type of material?
They don't know. They're studying it, but it's some kind of compound that they don't recognize.
Mr. Blumenthal, if you're watching this, I just want you to know that I'm buying your book. You see, you're putting pressure on the truth embargo. Consequently, I'm putting money in your pocket. That's how it works around here. I don't know if you've noticed, but I believe that network news is changing, is evolving. Where prior to December 16th, the status quo was that if the UFO subject was brought up, almost every single individual within the network news would ridicule this subject. But I see it trending away from that. As a result of the December 16th gun camera footage released by the New York Times, by the Department of Defense. And you see, the New York Times became like a template for all other news agencies to follow. That is, this is real. You better take it seriously. Tucker Carlson of Fox News personifies the transition that the news agencies are making from once ridiculing the UFO subject to taking it seriously. I'm going to show you a clip that expresses the seriousness that Tucker Carlson has and that other pundits are starting to have on the UFO subject. Roll it.
Well, you may not have heard about this since apparently it's not a big news story somehow, but UFOs turn out to be real. We're not kidding. Recently, the New York Times profiled a secret $22 million Pentagon program that investigated unidentified flying objects. Doesn't mean they're from outer space, but they're not identified, and they're flying, and they're objects. The program wasn't bogus. Investigators found multiple aircraft encounters they could not explain, and they've even been storing metal alloy recovered from the vicinity of these encounters.
Leslie Kean has stated that Tucker Carlson is very interested in the UFO phenomenon, and he is going to invite her on the show again. On a very recent Open Minds UFO radio program by Alejandro Rojas, Leslie Kean was asked if the third video was going to be released soon, and she said, "I think that it will be." And trust me, Leslie Kean is about as good a source as you can get as to when something will be released, because she is basically the main reporter within the within the To the Stars Academy team. So expect a release of that third video very soon. Another very interesting thing I learned from this interview is that Leslie Kean said that from her understanding that the UFO program in the Pentagon examined about 10 to 12 UFO incidences a year, which over the span of 10 years is roughly 100 incidences. I was lucky enough to come across a Facebook post where someone referenced the December 14th tweet by Tom DeLonge, where he referenced a war within Washington, D.C. that he subsequently deleted. Here's the tweet. "You are all so funny. The enormity of what I have pulled off has taken years and major sacrifice. Every time I see a doubter and impatience, I laugh at the ignorance, insignificance of their views. The biggest secret in the world doesn't break open easily. There's a war inside DC." And beautifully, it was Gary Nolan who responded to that Facebook post that I think was referring to that Tom DeLonge tweet. And notice that Gary Nolan is actually a member of the To the Stars Academy team. He is the genetics technologies consultant, and you may notice that he was actually in the first Stephen Greer documentary Sirius. Anyways, here is what Gary Nolan, a member of the To the Stars Academy team, had to say regarding the very real war that's occurring within Washington, D.C. right now. "War is more between those who don't think people can handle the truth, those who want to continue using ET as a cover story for sundry goals, religionists who think this is all the work of demonic forces, not kidding, and those who want the information out. Now, don't think that everyone who wants the information out is all on one side either. Some want to take advantage of the tech for good outcomes, some for money, some because they just think it's time to grow up, etc. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of agendas. Just look at the self-defeating tearing down that goes on every day amongst the so-called disclosure crowd. My advice? Keep asking questions about the data. Challenge skeptics with questions. Don't try to convince a skeptic. Turn the tables on their skepticism and ask them the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, the UFO cover-up is dying. And with its death, something greater will rise in its wake. The UFO cover-up, at least in recent history, has not served to improve mankind. The only thing that it has accomplished is created a barrier keeping us from knowing the most profound truth that humanity could possibly know, and that is that we are not alone in the universe. This is a great time to be alive. If you enjoyed this video, I do hope you will subscribe because there's going to be more videos like it. I cover the disclosure process. You're not going to want to miss it. My name is Ryan, and I am the creator of Post-Disclosure World. I look forward to seeing you next time.